24 hours of peace, peace, love, unity, safely having fun. Real hip hop for the people. It's an engagement. It's a demonstration. Using hip hop culture to get you activated. Let the people hear the bass, the vibration, the love, peace, unity, and watch them add on. It's a culture. It's not just rapping. It's not what we do. It's how we do it. We're doing it right here, Springfield Avenue, between Bergen and Plum. 24 hours straight, man. It's crazy.
Shit. We the people. The people of the culture.
Yeah, Ron Lawrence.
Fire. The hip hop culture.
Yo, we love rap.
That's
Love
what
it. Yeah, we do. But it's really about the culture.
Yeah, let them know how.
The culture.
Yeah. What up, man?
You know a hard head makes a soft behind. If I only knew my schoolwork like I knew them rhymes. Mom upside my head, I'm trying to memorize every line. High power rap breaks, super rhymes. Deep into the culture, didn't even know it. Young entrepreneurs spitting bars like a poet in a rush to be mature behind bars when we blow it. In the bold ass rappers too immature to outgrow it. It was more than just music, something next to breathing. I get giddy like a baby trying to spit while I'm feeding. The mic I be squeezing, dropping facts like I'm teaching. Leaking flows for the perfect beat seeking. Mama used to say, take your time, young man. But I'm trying to feel a light so you can see it when I tan. I'm like one I never ran, I'm a fan but never stand. Just take it backwards to the east, Xing out the clan.
Holy integrated, having omnipresent, we are.
But no one stopped to think about the people.
Holy integrated, having omnipresent, we are.
But no one stopped to think about the people.
Pueblo Unido, grassroots Steve Biko. Rule number one, never forget the people. I live that, I get back. Heart all in it, no gimmicks, straight facts. From the start, I'm the light from the dark. Born from black art. Knew my part. Daddy gave me, mama made me, North raised me, hip hop saved me. For the culture now, for the black and brown, Harriet Underground, sun up to sundown. Till my people get out, north to down south, spread like word of mouth. While you cowards is hooded, we battle the bullet. Black lives to the fullest. Out here to the end, stronger together, that's the day we win.
Holy integrated, having omnipresent, we are.
But no one stopped to think about the people.
Holy integrated, having omnipresent, we are.
Yeah. But no one stopped to think about the people.
The legends before me are ones I want to get it like, but hitting quick hit different when hitting right. Mob ties, this thing of ours is birthrights. Who's next for the culture and them searchlights? Doing to it, this music, I'm trying to talk through it. Every plan on my own, I watch the lie do it. Airborne to Skiki, like a Wendell Pruitt. Trumpets blow, this song's here, melodic ruins. Think for it before they have to think for 'em. Boom bap, I talk that and live enormous. Informers when present and your boy performing, especially when them drums snap by Ryan Lawrence. Doing all that poet talk of the line crosser. Mini hawk and I speed by in flying saucers. Make it worth it, I can't take no feeble offers. Signed, sealed, and delivered, and you know the offer.
Holy integrated, having omnipresent, we are.
But no one stopped to think about the people.
Holy integrated, having omnipresent, we are. Yeah, the people.
Yeah, you see what it is. You see what it is.
Yeah, that was New York rap. We don't need that. Real hip hop for the people, though. Real hip hop for the people by your boy Hakim Green, featuring Amiri Baraka Jr., aka Mitty, Do It All Kelly from Lords of the Underground, who is currently West Ward councilman for the great city of Newark, New Jersey. G Simone on the hook, of course, the wife of KRS-One, so you know real hip hop is all over that piece. We shot that video at 24 Hours of Peace, which is an annual peace festival we do in Newark, New Jersey. We've been doing that live and direct since 2010. 13
years over the 15 years, of course, COVID, and we had to step away 2018, I believe, as well. But every other year since, we've been live and direct. Started out with 400 or 500 people come out. Now 20,000 plus people come out during the course of the 24 hours. And when I say 24 hours, I mean just that. 24 hours. We go from Friday to Saturday, 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. We choose a weekend in August, September, like toward the end of the summer, as young people are going back to school, gearing up for school. We want to get them focused on peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. And we use the event to do just that. But also to show people where the resources are at, which is our next guest, who's not in the building yet. I'm just juggling right now, trying to kill time, but it's all good because Real Hip Hop for the People, which is the video you guys saw at the beginning of the program. We do that in coordination with the Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery and the Brick City Peace Collective, which are offices in Newark, New Jersey. This young lady coming up at one point was the president of OVP, a director of OVP, and then she became the first deputy mayor of public safety violence prevention. I'm gonna let her get all the particulars correct, so don't quote me on that. But she just keeps moving the bar forward, and I thought it was important to highlight her on this show, the Hakim Green Show, to show people that hip hop is truly more than rapping. Hip hop is not what we do; it is how we do it. So when I talk about people like City Councilman Do It All, Dupre Kelly from the Lords of the Underground, who is hip hop to the T, become the West Ward City Councilman, and do his thing. Of course, hip hop is in the building on that level. Hold on, let me see what's going on. Sister Keisha, you there?
I am here, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Are we gonna get a video from you or no?
Yes, give me 1 second. I'm trying to get in some good light. Give me one second.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna bump my gums. Let me know when you're ready. So to see hip hop in the building, and hip hop is culture. That's why I say it's not what we do, it's how we do it. It's culture, it's how we relate to one another, it's how we build with one another, it's how we talk to one another. It's that's what hip hop is. So being able to connect with fine people like Deputy Mayor LAKEESHA EURE, like from the very out the gate with 24 hours of peace. Then she was chairwoman of the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. And of course, she's New Black Panther Party, and she's a community activist, and she's an educator, and she's so many other wonderful things. And we're gonna get into all of that in this conversation that we're gonna have with this young lady. But once we get a video, there we go. Peace, Deputy Mayor. How are you?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we've launched the Hakim Green Show. I've been juggling different interview platforms around for a minute, and we've honed into the Hakim Green Show. And before I got too far into episodes, I was like, I gotta sit with my sister, LAKEESHA EURE, Deputy Mayor of. Now, give me the exact title so I don't mess it up.
Deputy Mayor for Public Safety.
Thank you. I got it right. Yes, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. And you're the first Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, am I right?
Before me, O'Hara was the police director, and then he was the deputy mayor for a short spell before he left to go to Minneapolis.
Got you. Understood. Yeah, but you've progressed since I first met you. I mean, we've known each other for a while, even before, Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, 24 Hours of Peace, that whole collab. You've been in the trenches from like early on. So I want to get a sense of like who you are as an individual, as a person. You're a Newark native, but tell us your story, where you from, what hospital you was born in, all the way with school system, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, all of that.
Yeah.
City of Newark from the West Ward, 11th Street and Central Avenue. To the schools, right? I went to Martin Luther King. That is no longer Martin Luther King. Is now a North Star school. I went to Science High School, which is now Science Park. And then went on to go to Ramapo College, Keene University. And so I am a social worker by training, by degree. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have a master's in social work. And so social work has probably always been who I've been. But before I was a social worker, an activist, and in the streets and doing all those things, I wanted to be a mortician. But life just said something different. So here I am, still helping people, still saving lives, still, being an advocate, for the community. But community is where I come from. It was the people on the block that raised me. It was the people who stood in the gap for me. It was the people who was there for me. And so, I opted to, kind of reach back and do the same thing.
Yeah. Now, Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, when I got back to, to the area, to Newark, East Orange, and sort of got the work that you guys were doing was, something that they say is never done. Where they always protesting police brutality, but they never protest black on black crime. And I don't like that term, black on black crime, but we know what we're talking about when we say that. And just Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, why was it created, the successes that you guys experienced over the years you guys were together? Talk about that.
So Newark Anti-Violence Coalition became a formal entity in 2009. But prior to that, it was already forming before it was. So it was grassroots, a bunch of, group of people who came together that wanted to fight against the violence that was happening in our city. We had an increase in crime and violence, in shootings and murders for women and children that was happening. And it was business as usual. People wasn't outraged. It was the norm. It was becoming like, oh, well, that's just what happens in Newark. But, it was people that was like, nah, this can't be normal. Like there's some code of conduct that needs to happen. And we've always had some code in the street that, women and children were off limits. But at some point it wasn't that. And so there was a woman by the name of LAKEESHA Allen that was shot and killed on Mika in Elizabeth Avenue. And she was trying to, help and shield another kid from getting shot and killed. And she herself put herself in harm's way. And, during that time, us as activists and concerned citizens, Mayor Baraka wasn't the mayor at the time, began to put out a text message to say, hey, we need to go there. Like it has to be some outrage. It can't just be business as usual. And that was the Dave Muhammad's and just, all of us that was just concerned at the time. And so we began to gather anywhere where violence was taking place and making noise around, stop the violence in our community. And so that began to take a life of its own in terms of forming the Anti-Violence Coalition, where we began to meet on a weekly basis. And every Wednesday we would go to a neighborhood and shut down the traffic and let people know that this can't be like, it can't be business as usual. When the police shut this down for a shooting, y'all respect it. But when we come here, y'all don't respect it. And so the people didn't trust law enforcement during this time. There was an issue with law enforcement. They didn't want to talk to them. And we still have that issue, right, in some communities. And so we said, well, we'll police our own communities. And so we began to go into every neighborhood where violence took place and shut down the traffic and give messages to the community. And so we had demands. So we wasn't just there, to shut it down, but we had demands. And the first demand was about having a voice in public safety. We had Gary McCarthy at the time, who's the police director. We didn't want him. And so the number one, Gary McCarthy must go. But beyond that, we want an active voice in public safety. Number two, we wanted employment for Newarkers. We wanted Newarkers to have jobs because we understood that violence was about poverty and people not having resources. And people who had the jobs in Newark was taking the money and leaving and going to other neighborhoods. And so we wanted the money to stay in Newark. We wanted Newarkers to have jobs. So our demand was Newarkers, for employment, needed to have access to employment. We wanted the Amistad taught in the schools. We wanted Black and Brown history taught in the schools because we understood that if people knew who they were and where they came from and loved themselves, they're less likely to commit violence against people who look like them. We wanted the Bloods and the Crips to put their guns down because during that time, they blamed all of the crime and violence on gang members. And we then became knowledgeable that that wasn't even the case, but we didn't have the data to prove it. But it wasn't all gang violence that was happening. But we said, Bloods and Crips, put your guns down senselessly around violence and have some code of conduct out here. And finally, we wanted violence declared a public health issue. And so that's how we began organizing to have this movement. But then we knew that everybody wasn't organizers. Everybody wasn't grassroots. Everybody wasn't going to protest and get in the streets and go to City Hall and block the traffic and make phone calls. And so during that time, as we began to do it, we did 155 weeks in a row, rain, sleet, snow, protested against the violence in the city, and people were upset with us. The police were upset with us. City officials were upset with us. But that level of consistency, we became the first city, like nationally, to have the longest standing anti-violence movement. But there were other movements happening, right? So as you know, 24 Hours of Peace comes out of this movement because everybody didn't want to do and be in the streets. But some folks were artists. Some folks wanted to do something else to get the messaging out. And so this is how we begin to lay the foundation. So for 155 weeks, rain, sleet, snow, we begin to get our demands met, and we begin our anti-violence movement in the streets.
Yeah. So, I think that's important for people to understand North Anti-Violence Coalition, because coalition being the operative word here, and organization is something that you mentioned. We see politics on the national level. People miss how important the local level is, and how, I'm not going to say easy, there's nothing easy about the work that you do, right? But, it's easier to do the work than it is to suffer the repercussions from not doing the work.
Right.
So if you could just talk about the organization on the local level and the effect that it ended up having on city government, county government, state government.
So as we continue to do this work, there were certainly sacrifices and all of those things. Mayor Baraka becomes the mayor in 2014. And during the time that we were doing these rallies, we would introduce him at the rallies as the people's mayor. This is the people's mayor. He wasn't in, the seat at the time, but he was our mayor at the time. This is the people's champ. So when he did get elected in 2014, he recognized and knew that those demands that we had while we were in the streets, that he had to honor that, right? He had to make word bond. He could not get into the seat and not do anything about these demands that we had. So he, Cory Booker was the mayor at the time, and Baraka comes in, then it becomes violence is declared a public health issue. We begin to put resources to it and figure it out. But ultimately, it was the wake of George Floyd being killed that forced us to be able to put funding and put resources into place, because nationally across the world, people were wanting to defund the police. It was a rallying cry because of police brutality. And so we, the Mayor Baraka signed the executive order to make violence a public health issue, but to create an Office of Violence Prevention. But before we had an Office of Violence Prevention, we had a Brick City Peace Collective. And the Brick City Peace Collective was that innate North Anti-Violence Coalition. It was people already on the ground. It was people already working together. It was already coalition building happening. We just didn't have the infrastructure in place. We just didn't know what it was supposed to look like structurally. But the Brick City Peace Collective structured, that piece for us. And then we have the Office of Violence Prevention. So with the Office of Violence Prevention, we reallocated 5% of the police department's budget to create this office, which means during that time, the police department's budget was $235 million. So 5% of that for us was $11.5 million to start an Office of Violence Prevention. So that helps us to do help with relocation. We put social workers, we hired social workers and outreach workers, because when people are shot, stabbed, robbed, killed, carjacked, where do they go for resources? Where do they go for help? After they go to the police, then what? And so we said, no, these people need a place to go. They need some resource. They need a place to land. They need counseling services. They need food, clothing, shelter, transportation, right? Because victimization can happen to anybody. And so we begin to build this office, and it is at the old first precinct where police brutality was happening. So in 67, right, there was a rebellion in the city of Newark, and it sparked out of this location. And so to see the police office now turned into a place of help and healing, and people can get some resources, is transformational. And so what we came up against, though, was that people didn't want the Office of Violence Prevention there. They wanted more police. They wanted to keep it a police station because people believe that more police equals more safety. Not community-based people, not people who have relationships with community, not outreach workers, not social workers, but police. And so we were still up against this mindset that more police equals more safety.
You know, big shout out to Das Discourse. I follow him on Instagram, and he did a piece talking about his grandmother believes that police would make her more safe. And then he goes into this whole thing, and the way he delivers his message is right on point. I'm gonna send you that clip, by the way. But the end of his segment, he shows how the numbers bear out that more police doesn't equal safer neighborhoods. It's services, it's investment, it's education, it's jobs. When those things are in place, you see the decrease in crime happen. Now, the idea of defunding the police and the backlash that gets. Now, we don't call it defunding the police, reallocation of dollars.
Correct.
Right. Newark, as a case study, shows and prove why that works. And I just want you to talk about the successes that you've been experiencing while you've been deputy mayor and, of course, OVP and Brick City Peace Collective.
So as we begin to build the workout, again, there's no blueprint for it. So I'm the director for the Office of Violence Prevention, and we're figuring it out. But it was the help of leadership at the top, believing in this work, leadership saying this is a priority. The mayor ran his whole campaign on public safety. Yeah. But public safety has to have a community base. But you can't have public safety without the public. And so we had to put the public back into it. And it has been tremendous in terms of trying to change mindset with people in the community, our elected officials and different people. So we've been consistent in doing that. So some of the successes that we've had when I was in Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, we had over 112 homicides. 112 homicides during those times, 2008, 9, 10. So over the last 10 years, I would say from 2014 to 2024, we've been able to see decreases over the last, once we made the investment, when the Office of Violence Prevention, the Newark Community Street Team was brought in as the mayor's first public safety strategy. Newark Street Academy with disengaged youth and young people, having, alternatives to police and alternatives to violence. And so I would certainly tell you today, as we speak, we have 24 homicides year to date. So from 112 to 24 or 25 currently is tremendous work. And so every year we've been able to decrease. So this year we had 24, 25. Last year we finished at 37. The year before we had 48. The year before we had 52. So we've been able to decrease about, 10% every year coming down because we've made more investment. And so the mayor we had ARP dollars, American Rescue Plan dollars, and it was like $20 million for public safety. And we invested 16 million of those dollars into community. Investment that we've never made before. Organizations like the Hub, like the Community Safe Zone, Newark Community Street Team, inspired by organizations that's never been invested in. The city has never invested in, but they continue to do the work, has now had an investment. That's what's helped us to have year-over-year reductions with our relationship with law enforcement. We have a hospital violence intervention program that when people are shot, stabbed, anything happens to them and they go into the hospital, somebody comes to the bedside and gives them resources from the time they're admitted to the hospital to the time they're discharged, right? So resources has been the key. Relationships has been the key. Investment has been the key to us being able to have year over year reductions and us having an ecosystem where we are working together, that we understand that there's a lane for everybody and everybody needs to stay in their lane and do the work that they're great at, so that we don't crisscross and we're not in competition. And so having leadership that believes in this work, having community that understands the need, having relationships has been what has been the success, and having the people in place that we know what they're doing. People matter, right? So you can't have all of these great things happening with the wrong people in place. So having the right people in place has helped us to have the successes that we've been able to have.
Yeah, that's Newark in the fight against violence and crime, and really the fight for the people of the city, most importantly,
right,
has something I've been witnessing, since I got back in 2010. Of course, 24 Hours of Peace that we do every year, and you see the numbers dropping. Any death is too many deaths. Just for the listening public, we don't want to get the idea that we celebrate anybody's but to see the decrease in murders in Newark, New Jersey. We're seeing the same thing happen in other cities, Chicago, Baltimore, and around the country. Violence is coming down, and it's because of these. I don't like the Democratic Republican, but we know in terms of investment,
right.
Where can we leverage our organization and our power to get support? So you've been doing a lot of work, of course, in the city, but your work has resonated county and state. And I wanted you to talk about that as well.
Right. So I want to just plug into, I'm in Louisville in Kentucky right now at Cities United Conference. And there are over 1,300 people here right now who are doing violence prevention work, right? Nationally. Right. Every city is here. Jackson, Mississippi, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Baltimore, every city that you can, Kankakee, places that we don't even know, right? Boston, places that, Milwaukee is here. And so we know that nationally, this movement has been taken off because of we now being trained. There's an investment in it. But what we also know is in the city of Newark, when we launched our Office of Violence Prevention, so next comes the State Office of Violence Prevention, right? So the state of New Jersey created an Office of Violence Prevention, but federally there was an Office of Violence Prevention in the White House. Yes. And Mayor Baraka went there, and President Biden said that it's because of places like Newark that he decided to do an Office of Violence Prevention at the White House. Right. And so we have been able to set trends, and people don't talk about it, but we ultimately know that the national model and the influence that Newark has had, because people have been able to reimagine what public safety looks like, being able to do what other people are afraid to do. Most other cities are not reallocating funding from law enforcement, from police, because they are afraid to do it, because it doesn't look good. And so ultimately, again, we have to reframe how we look at public safety. It's about housing. It's about healthcare. It's about access to resources. It's about school. It's about all of those things. And so if we don't invest in those things, and we don't close the gap on those things, we're going to continue to see the cycles of violence persist, where we see the victims becoming the perpetrators and the perpetrators becoming the victims. And so we've hired the people who are a part of the problem. They say people who are closest to the problem are closest to the solution. I'm going to say they are the solution.
That's powerful.
They are the solution. So we can't leave them out of the table. So when we at the table, we've been leaving them out. And so we've been able to, in the city of Newark, organize the gang culture. We got Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, 200 boys, 500 boys, all of the folks at the table. They are part of the ecosystem. They are part of public safety. They are trained in CPR, stop the bleed, Narcan, trauma, and crisis intervention. They are trained in these things now. And they are addressing their own traumas so that they don't continue to perpetuate hate and violence in the city. They do weekly reports, right? So they are they police their own neighborhoods. And we got to keep them in the fold because they're the ones that call the shots. They're the ones that say if things happen or don't happen. And we got to be honest about it. So we can't leave them out the table. Our young guys, that's the shooters, or the ones that's stealing the cars, because we had an increase in car thefts.
Yeah.
We got to talk to them. We got to bring them to the table. We got to ask them, what is it that you need? We got social workers in every police department in the city of Newark. We got a social worker there. We got a sign. Request. So people can talk to somebody else.
We lost you for a hot second. We got a sign.
We have a sign in the police departments that say social workers available upon request.
Nice.
Right. So in the 5th precinct, there's a social worker there that when people get arrested, a social worker goes to the cell and see them and talk to them and ask them, what is it that you need? How can we help you?
An assessment.
Right. So that they don't come back. And we get to understand why things are happening. We have a seat at the ComStat table that we never had before. Right. So these things are transformational things that other cities are having a hard time figuring out how to do, but we've been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is how we've been able to shape public safety, to be a part of public safety, and to be public safety.
So I know you and brother A.T. Mitchell have a co-authored book. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about that book, the name of it and the necessity of it? Because it's, a powerful story, the two of you collaborating and how you're kind of getting through the work.
So A.T. Mitchell is the czar for violence prevention in New York City, but he's also the CEO of Man Up, Incorporated in New York, doing violence prevention work. But we have a book together called 10 Steps to Healing the Wounded Healers. And that's really about who helps to help, because we are wounded doing this work. We take a lot of hits. We take a lot of losses, right? We understand this work at a level that other people don't. We do this work with passion that other people can't. The Dawns, the Sister Dawn, and the Brother Sharifs of the world, right? The ones of us that have experienced so much loss and pain. I come to this work because my brother was shot by law enforcement. My brother's been shot a few times by somebody in the community. And I know what that was like, being on the other side of the yellow tape. I know what it was like to be mistreated by law enforcement. I know what it's like to be in the hospital and the doctors and the nurses not caring about your loved one because of how they view them, not caring that you love them. Right. And so I vowed that nobody else would have to experience that without me being an advocate at the scene. That scenes, wouldn't be the same. And so A.T. Mitchell and I was at a conference, and it was a resonating theme that kept talking about who helps to help. We are on the front line. And when the front line is wounded, then we got a problem. And so it was like text messaging. It was like, we got to do this book. And we kept saying it. So we did the book, and it's a training manual, if you will, 10 Steps to Healing the Wounded Healer. And it's really about us being able to heal ourselves. It's about burnout. It's about us being able to, it's for frontline workers and violence prevention work. But AT talks about in the book how he was wrongfully incarcerated for a crime he didn't commit. And so he is doing this work. He's out here. He has a great organization, and he's going to pass the torch. But what we talk about, I become the therapist for him because he's never gotten therapy. He's never talked about the harm that was caused or the trauma that he experienced. He just do the work, and we push ourselves into this work because of trauma. But I said, no, we gotta talk about this. And so I become his therapist in a book and help him unpack some of these things. Because what we're finding is that people are passing trauma along as they pass the torch. Mm-hmm. So he got to move out the way at some point. But you can't pass the hurt and harm along as you pass the baton. So how do you do that in a healthy way? How do we name the trauma? How do we talk about our burnout? How do we help other people not experience what we experience? And so that's really the book. And it helps us to be able to do growth work. And talk about maladaptive behaviors, bad behaviors that we pick up, and we mask it and we hide it. But we take so many hits. We take so much criticism. We do the great work, right? The impossible work for the ungrateful sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And how hard that is to get up every day and do it every day.
Yeah, that's traumatic. The emotion involved in your work, because there's times in the planning of 24 hours of peace, I'll reach out to you and you dealing with people at the hospital. You've been up 3 days, 4 days straight, helping people take care of their lives after they suffered a traumatic experience, and then you take all that trauma in, and then at the same time have to turn and be a different person to different people who don't know that side of you, aren't living those experiences, and keep a smile on your face. That's like, all of that kind of breeds trauma within yourself. And how do you process it? And AT going through what he's going through to get on the other side to help other people navigate what they're going through, and your thing ain't really solved and figured out yet. That's just heavy to think about. But to pivot to 24 hours of peace, and people see 24 hours of peace, I tell people that's a commercial. The real work is happening every single day outside of 24 hours of peace. Oh, how come we can't have more than 24 hours of peace? Why is it just 24 hours of peace? It's not just 24 hours of peace. That's just a nexus point where we could bring the healers and the workers into a place to do activations and engagements. So just so people know, it's the work of people like Miss LAKEESHA EURE here, and OVP and Brick City Peace Collective, and the people in the city that do the work every single day. Just 24 hours of peace is a place that you can find these people. And now nationally, we have a network of folks who are doing that type of work. So salute and kudos to you.
Thank you so much. 24 hours of peace has been growing exponentially from the time that we just had a little wiener wagon, or has the speaker hooked up to a car battery, right, on the back of a truck in front of King's Restaurant, right? So it has grown, and people now just see it as a concert, but that's not what it is. It brings people together from everywhere.
I'm sorry, man. So 24 Hours of Peace was born by watching the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition do their work every Wednesday for 5.5 years straight. And then going, how do we get the community in a mental place where they want to engage with the activation? The music, the entertainment is just the commercial. The real work of 24 Hours of Peace is what the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition was doing every Wednesday for 5.5 years, and wasn't getting the support from the community that they should have been getting. That's why 24 Hours of Peace was born.
Right, because we recognize that people like entertainment. And so we're trying to bring entertainment and education together and politicize people around what was happening in the community. And now we've gotten a bit more sophisticated, right, in terms of being able to bring the information, the data, the resources. So now we got people, the resource tables outside. We have people on the stage bringing messages. And our young people would probably never come. And so we have to bring their artists so they can see their artists. And then in between, give them the message of hope, healing, love, all of those things. And so go ahead.
We started out preaching to the choir. Like our first few years, it was just us, the people who, the coalition, the activists, the people in the mix who know what time it is, but we know what time it is. We don't need the message. How do we bring these other folks that are missing the message? How do we get them involved?
Right.
And we have to give them the people they want to see.
Right.
And that's a balancing act every year. But considering the impact, it's some things happen here and there, but kids will be kids, and we want people to be safe all the time. We don't want to leave all the violence somewhere else. We don't want to bring it to 24 Hours of Peace. But relative to the rest of the country, our weekend in Newark, New Jersey is extremely safe. It's
Right,
extremely
right.
safe.
Because yeah, certainly. And as we, and people will record because we have fights, but the fights get broken up, right? We have, and folks don't get arrested, and law enforcement understands what's going on. But we have people that come. This year, we had people from Alabama, from Pennsylvania, from New York. People come from everywhere
Everywhere.
to be able to be a part of this. We invite the violence prevention teams from other cities to be a part of, because when they see it, they want to take it back to their respective cities to say, how can we do this too?
Yeah.
And so Newark has become a national model for doing this work. For our leader, the mayor having leadership, the police department buying into it. We have a operation that if a notification comes in right now for a shooting or something like that, I get the notification. I deploy it out to my team, to my outreach workers, my victim advocates, everybody. And we have a machine that goes like clockwork to go help families at the hospital or at the scene. And we do the follow-up work to help families. Our social workers get referrals from the police. Last year, the police referred 2,800 people to the Office of Violence Prevention.
That's amazing. That's unfortunate, but fortunate.
Correct.
We talk
So
2,000 people needing that type of help. Fortunate that there's an entity built to address those types of concerns.
the police would never send referrals before. The police are grateful that they don't have to be the social worker. They don't have to be the outreach worker. They don't have to be the victim advocate. They don't have to figure out where the kid gonna go. They don't have to figure out none of that stuff, because now the call goes to Office of Violence Prevention. Call OVP. All they get to do is enforce the law. They don't have to be everything. And what we want to have is a place where we can de-escalate situations. These are our neighborhoods. These are our people, right? Community gets to police themselves because we know what happened, who did it, why it happened. 9 times out of it, we know all of those things, right? And so it gives law enforcement the opportunity to do the real police work. In which case, law enforcement has a 90-something% closeout rate in the city of Newark for homicides. Like, so their closeout rates are tremendously higher now because of technology and collaboration in terms of, their side, law enforcement side. But now they don't have to do everything and be everything. And so we don't want people to be arrested because we can't arrest our way out of this issue. This is about social determinants of health. This is about stuff, the root causes. Office of Violence Prevention was created to get to the root cause of crime and violence. Why are people creating or doing violence and crime? Ma'am, why did you do that? Sir, why did you do that? Because of poverty, because of mental health issues, because of emotional issues, because of housing issues, because of, right? Who's asking the why? We go ask why. We go knock on the doors. We go talk to the people. We go do wellness checks. Domestic violence was at an all-time high during COVID in the city. And because we had shootings, we kind of let the domestic violence incidents fall through the cracks, but now that's our priority. So now the city of Newark has an all-men domestic violence response team. All men, unheard of. Men are victims, but men are also perpetrators. So how do we solve those issues? So we have men who went and got 40 hours of domestic violence training, and now they have a response team to be able to help other men who are either victims or perpetrators or both, and stand in a gap to have a different response than what the county has, than what the system has. We have a different response team.
Yeah.
So we are creating opportunities where there was none.
See, and like just to circle it back around to the Newark Anti-Violence, Coalition and organization on a local level, on an activist level, on a street level, the power, it gets expressed in such a big way because a lot of the ideas that you're talking about, conversations that we're having 15, 20 years ago wouldn't have been a possibility. But it's because local people worked, community organizers worked and got these channels opened up. Again, salute to you, the work that you do, who you are as a person, what you mean to 24 hours of peace. individually, you, LAKEESHA EURE, have meant a great deal to 24 Hours of Peace, and I want you to know that. And of course, all the offices that you've headed up and worked with, always supportive of 24 Hours of Peace and the expression of the work. Like, again, I'm gonna reiterate, we're the commercial, we're the expression of peace, love, unity, and safely having fun. Now go get you some help from Sister LAKEESHA EURE, who's sitting over there. She got that work for you.
That's the way to express it, because people are ashamed a lot of times of coming to get help, or don't have trust in the system because the system has failed them before. Yeah. Right. And so those are real things, right, that I want to talk about. So we get to talk about all of the great stuff, right? But there's real things that people have: anxiety and depression and mental health issues and social issues and all of the things that are real things that deters them from getting the help that they need, that keeps them in the cycle of violence. People who are in domestic violence situations, people who are in, situations that are not healthy relationships, people are living in places that they shouldn't be living, but they're doing what they got to do because they're in survival mode. Right. And so a lot of right now, the climate is tough with Trump being in office. The climate is shaky right now. People don't know what's going to happen next. And so we have to band back to community. We have to know how to tap into community to be able to pull these resources together, to be able to help us get out of a situation. So I want to really, really talk about that while crime and violence, different things, the numbers are down, the perspective is different. People have a different perspective. And I don't want to overshadow that and all of the accolades around, oh, we're doing great. We are doing great, right? But there's also a real place of harm that's been caused. There's a real place of healing that has not happened. And there's a real place of uncertainty and stress and anxiety that people are under right now. And we just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yeah, I know there's an election coming up on November 4th in New Jersey for governor. And, the stakes are high. We talk about the resources that have been made available all the way from the White House when President Biden and VP Harris was in, those resources being made available, national level, state level. We got a regime that's in place now and who they're trying to put to cut a lot of that out. So a lot of this good work that you're talking about that really needs more investment is not enough. Yeah, we're doing better, but we're far from off. Right? We're far from there. And then we're looking at, somebody who's committed to cutting those resources.
So those resources have been cut. So I talked about the White House Office of Violence Prevention. And during that time, Biden had invested, him and Kamala invested about $5 billion into community violence intervention work. And overnight, a lot of those dollars, once, Trump got into office, were cut. The Office of Violence Prevention at the White House was closed down. About $800 million has been cut. And, we're looking at further cuts. They, took the dollars away, and, a lot of people were laid off, people who depended on this.
Hold on one second. I want you to keep talking like you were sharing information. I need to step away from 1 second. Just keep talking.
Okay. So we had $800 million cut from the violence prevention budget. And so dollars at the White House are not enough. Federal dollars have been cut. A lot of organizations lost funding. In the city of Newark, there's organizations that lost funding and had to lay people off, which means services get cut. Just recently, the state office, violence prevention in the state, has cut dollars where we have people, the city of Newark has dollars have been cut. We had $800,000 in funding that has been cut. So there's cuts that are happening, and it means people's lives are on the line, that we'll have an uptick in crime and violence, that we have offices that's going to close, that we have people who are not going to have jobs, and the resources and the services in terms of helping people are not there anymore. So this is a huge fight. that we're having in terms of violence prevention, but not just violence prevention. Nationally, dollars have been cut, which means that people's livelihood is at stake. And so we have a governor's race coming up. Mikey Sherrills is running against Jack Citarelli in the city in New Jersey. And the numbers are looking tight. They're neck and neck in terms of this fight, in terms of a blue state becoming red, a possibility. And so with that, Mayor Baraka ran for governor, as we all know, and he did really well. He came in second. And so, people were very excited about his run. He gave people hope. People were able to, see something different happening. People came out to vote. And so we had an election, and we have now a candidate that now Mayor Baraka is supporting this candidate because we need to support the seat. We need the state to stay blue. If the state does, we're going to see further cuts. We're going to see further cuts in the resources and the dollars that we once had. And so we have President, our former President Obama is coming to Newark this Sunday to help campaign. And so we're trying to, do everything that we can to help this seat to be able to get over the finish line in New Jersey.
Really drive home the fact that, voting and not voting and who you vote for has real consequences. And when we talk about the services that have been invested in over the last, 8 to 16 years because of, a more progressive take on politics, anyway, we know we just we moved the ball forward. And now the ball is being pushed back the other way. And it's because we don't understand the real impact on leverage and being invested politically. The local level, you can get so much accomplished just on the local level, just showing up. Showing up. You have to run for nothing. You don't have to be administrative. No, let your voice be heard. Show up, sign your name when it's time to speak out, as a representative of your community. Let your voice be heard. Don't let it go to waste because it's real dollars, real investment, real support at stake when we don't show up.
Absolutely. And we have to look at the bigger picture. And so we can't tell you how to vote, but we want you to vote your interests. Yes. Right. So, what are your interests? What matters to you? Property taxes, payroll taxes, just different, whatever matters to you. But we want folks to vote their interests, but we also want you to see the bigger picture that if we go, Democrat versus Republican or whatever those things are, what that can mean down the line, what that can mean long term. So we don't want people to just look at the right now. We want people to look at what's going to happen down the line, how detrimental this can be, to the state. This feels like we're in a pandemic all over again.
Yeah.
It feels like it is a pandemic. Let me say it that way. We are in another pandemic when we just don't know. We have this upcoming, weekend. SNAP benefits may not come to people. People don't know how they're going to eat, right? People don't know where the money is coming from. Supermarkets, not knowing, food pantries, not knowing, Thanksgiving coming up and not knowing what that's going to look like. This is a time that we've never seen before, other than whatever happened during COVID. So we have to be politically savvy. We have to be politically educated. We got to get out of the way of our own personal feelings. We got to go back to community. We got to go back to reading and being educated about what's happening, because we are in dangerous times right now.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
And our advocates and the people who were on the grounds and the people who were, that get policy changes to happen are burnt out and tired. We got to raise up a new generation of folks that's going to be able to get us through, some organizers, some grassroots. Larry Ham can't do it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Baba Zaid can't do it. Right? The folks that we relied on in the past, they tired. So this is a real funky time. And I just don't know. I plead with people to not sit on the sideline, because your candidate may not be on the roster or you didn't get who you wanted, I need you to vote what's in the best interest of the next best interest and get out there, because we will lose this race because people sit at home.
And you know, I'm in a different position than she is. I'm a creative. I'm an artist. I can say certain things that, you know, she can't say. But I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it like this. You know, look at what's going on in the world and who's being targeted. If they'll do it to them, they'll do it to you. In fact, that is the plan, is to do it to you. So we see other communities who are being targeted. We don't, you know, readily identify with them, and we think it's just them. No, they're going to move the line to you too. They're going to target you too. On that note, I know, let me get this right. Beyond her clinical work, LAKEESHA is the visionary founder of Beta Kappa Sigma Black and Latino Sorority Incorporated, which is interesting because, you know, you bring in cultures together, you're collaborative, you're coming, the importance of your sorority and why you are the founder of it. Yeah.
So Ramapo College, Kenya, during the time that I was in school, I always wanted to do, you know, sorority, fraternity. And probably if I had to do it differently, I probably would have done something different. But understanding, you know, I come from Black Power tradition. And people are like, why you do a Greek sorority, right? So that's always a whole nother conversation. But beyond that, I did Black and Latina because when I was at Ramapo College, all of the Black organizations were suspended and in bad standing. And so the one that I wanted to do wasn't there. And so I did another one and then I ended up dropping. And then I would have had to go to another school. So I was a sweetheart for a fraternity, Beta Kappa Psi, and their mascot was a Black Panther. And that resonated with me.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, so it's Beta Kappa Psi, and they a Black and Latino fraternity with a Black Panther mascot.
Wow.
So just it resonated with me. And during the time, it was a bunch of us that was sweethearts. The school said we had to disband because we were illegal. We didn't want to disband, so we created the sorority, but understanding that everything comes from Blackness. Right. And so we were teaching culture. The sorority was based on teaching culture and everything coming from Blackness. So our sorority is Beta Kappa Sigma Black and Latina Sorority Incorporated. So we keeping the culture at the forefront. And we wasn't able to join the Pan Hell Council because we wasn't only Black. And we wasn't able to join a multicultural council because they said we wasn't multicultural. They said we was only biracial.
Oh, come on, yo. Yeah. Hold on. First, you know, they cracked me up with that. All right, Latino is not a race. However, there are an infinite amount of cultures within Latino, like everything, South America, all the way up to the islands. It's like so many different cultures. And we already know how many cultural differences is within our people, from Caribbean to African American to African. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
So we don't belong to a council because the council won't accept us. They said we got to change our name.
That's
right. So I'm a founder. I'm a proud founder. I founded the organization with 36 other women who I'm still very close to. The sorority is still very functional. We just brought in some new sisters. I don't necessarily always promote it. You know, we have all of the Divine Nine and they, you know, I don't always promote mine, but I'm going to start to, right? But ultimately looking at it as people who are able, some people ain't go to college. So I want to be able to get the women who may not have gone to college, who may have been incarcerated, who may have only went to community college, right? And not ostracize them because they didn't graduate from a 4-year university. So looking to do something different with a different group of people to be able to, you know, pull together that cultural piece and keep culture at the forefront of this. So yes, I'm a founder of Beta Kappa Sigma, and I am very active even still.
Well, salute and kudos to you. I want to have another conversation offline about that because are you familiar with Steve Coakley?
I am.
All right. So yeah, I ain't got to say no more. But, you know, I love it, to be honest with you. just doing something different. When you're rooted right and you're grounded right and your heart is right, I get with it all because your heart is right. So
Right.
all this other here is about unity. It's about bringing people into the message. It's about sharing. It's about learning and growing. And the reason why I asked is because it was Black and Latina. So it's like the unity part, there's differences between our communities that get highlighted way too much. And, somebody said everything comes from Blackness. Absolutely. They are brothers and sisters too. We just got to get on the same page and identify, and they show us who the real enemy is because they target. It's not a color thing.
Right. Certainly not a color thing, right? So we understand, the nature of it. I minored in Africana studies. So I majored in social work and minored in Africana studies. So for me, right, and I love Dr. Khalid, and he said, if you're going to do anything you do it from a revolutionary place, right? And so being revolutionary, being, Black power, all of those things. And Black power just means to define, develop, and defend what's in the best interest of Black people.
Yeah.
And so just making sure that, we continue to keep those things in the forefront. And so when you don't forget where you come from and you understand where you come from, then everything you do comes from that place. And so there's no confusion around why I do the work that I do and who I do the work for.
Nice. Man, so we've been for an hour. I told you like an hour, not in a rush, we can keep going, but I want to make sure people understand where they can get at you, follow you, get in touch with you. They need your assistance. Not to put no extra work on you.
Yeah, you are putting extra work on me.
I'm very, very, very busy, but
putting extra work on.
Yeah, but people need to get that book, so you can definitely shout that out.
Yeah, the book is on Amazon, but I have not done any book signings or done anything with the book in real life. But I'm going to start to do some work with the book. The book is more of a training kind of a place, not a book to read, right? It's really a teaching tool. But there's pictures in the book. There's people might find themselves in the book. I was trying to be inclusive of folks from the work. But the book is how to not burn out, how to not allow, and then we talk about the body keeps the score, right? And so stress, anxiety, all those things wear and tear on the body. So we talk about signs and signals of when your body is telling you like it's time to go sit down or you're doing too much. All of the things. So it's from a place for frontline workers, people that do frontline work. And when we have our frontline workers are wounded, right, who helps to help? And that becomes a constant question. I was just talking to somebody from Erica Ford's team from Life Camp today, and she had one of her people that worked for her passed away, young 31-year-old, of a heart attack. And the whole team was grieving. And so it was like, when your whole team is man down, then what do you do? Who is how do you help to help? And so that's always a real place when we lose people on our teams, when we lose family members, when we lose people around us, like, what do we do? And so really just trying to give people a tool, give them something that can resonate with them, give them something that they can relate to, that they might pick up and decide, hey, let me, learn how to do something different, to get something different.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Newark, New Jersey.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? How did I get here? Who would have thought it?
It all makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. You got further heights to go because the work you do is powerful and tremendous and is well appreciated. It definitely is. So be on the lookout for LAKEESHA EURE in a city near you, sharing her wisdom on trauma recovery, violence prevention, public safety. No doubt. Peace, Queen.
Peace, beloved. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for allowing me to get my message out. Thank you so much for ultimately just allowing me to share space with you, your viewers, and the HAKIM Green Show.
No doubt. All right, everybody, we signing off. Peace, y'all.
Peace.